a little strong. No, it's okay.
We're here today to publicly present the findings from our data collection, mobilization, and research initiative. We're highlighting the negative impact of ordinance number 2023-55 and the severe lack of resources available for the unhoused community in Orlando. The Revolutionary Education and Action League, together with the community supporting our People Must Free Kitchen program, was deeply concerned about and strongly opposed ordinance number 2023-55 in Orlando. It was ostensibly aimed at addressing safety concerns related to obstructing sidewalks. This ordinance raised significant apprehensions among citizens, particularly regarding its potential impact on homeless individuals. We firmly believe that the ordinance has targeted and harmed the homeless population, contributing to increased police violence and incarceration rates. We have data and personal accounts to support these claims as we interact with the community of Paramore on a weekly basis. We have several speakers today who will be sharing their insights and experiences, and we'll conclude with a Q&A session where you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. Our first speaker will be Cali Munoz, who will be grounding us in the movement. Who is Rio, like I mentioned earlier, and why should Orlando care about this issue?
Good afternoon. My name is Kali, and we are the Revolutionary Education and Action League, also known as REO. We are a group of working-class people united in the effort to build and support our communities, while also highlighting the capitalist profit motives as that which produces the issues that plague all working people and the planet. We do this through two inextricably linked paths: education and action. For education, beyond the discipline of our own studies, we host educational events around Orlando for the benefit of the people. We produce zines in which we expound our political line on a variety of topics, as well as hosted edu forums to engage with our community on everything from local housing issues to geopolitics. We also host movie nights, medical and self-defense training classes, and practical skills workshops. For the action, you see us here today speaking on behalf of the unhoused community of Orlando, whose struggles we have come to know very well after 2 years of service. Every Sunday, we have operated our People's Free Kitchen program to prepare hearty and delicious meals for our neighbors in Paramore, as well as hosting various services such as bike repairs, free clothing and barbers, etc. We also operate a farm in Pine Hills through which our community can learn skills and help us grow produce that is used to support our kitchen program. Our interests are the interests of the people. We support all people left vulnerable under the boot of capitalist ruling class interests. We support workers organizing for fair wages and livable treatment. We support tenants organizing for suitable and affordable housing. We support small businesses fighting corporations and corrupt legislation. And we support students organizing for justice and peace. Corporations, landlords, and the police may hold a power over us that threatens us daily, but our power is greater. It is up to us to protect ourselves. All we have is each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Cali. Our next speaker will be Albizu Marihuela, who will be giving us a financial breakdown, a detailed breakdown of Orlando City funds and how they impact the homeless community.
Hello everyone, like we said, my name is Albizu. I think I share the concern with fellow Americans about the use of our taxpayer dollars. We work very hard for our money day in, day out, and would like to see those taxes used for the public benefit, something that represents the interest of the people. After all, who else but our founding fathers had said that there should be no taxation without representation? We are living in very tumultuous times. War looms over the horizon, and that is affecting domestically, where more and more Americans find themselves in economic strife, unable to make ends meet, unable to put food on the table, unable to keep a roof over the head. So I want it to be known, even though we are here on behalf of the houseless people, this ordinance is an issue that affects all working people. Because if you are one paycheck from being thrown on the street, then this ordinance makes it so that you could be arrested on that street for allegedly, seemingly blocking the sidewalk. The issue of homelessness is not a simple one. It is a multifaceted issue. But as I see it, it is a primarily economic issue. And that places our representatives in a unique position to answer the call of their constituents, to make bold and dynamic economic development plans worthy of addressing the issues that we face in the modern day. And we know that they know it's an issue. And we know that they know that there's a sense of urgency needed. Why else would their new plan to address homelessness be called Accelerate Orlando? With a name like that, you would think that we would be heading steadfast into a prosperous future. But once we crunch the numbers of that plan, we see that Accelerate Orlando really isn't up to speed. Orlando is planning to use $58 million of federal funds into this initiative, which is a drop in the bucket for the budget of the police that is over $200 million, and just recently received their own acceleration of a 7% increase to the salary of sworns at the drop of a dime. But we can't seem to have the same sort of urgency for the average working American, the average city worker, the average, just the regular proletariat. Accelerate Orlando aims to reinvigorate the vision for drop-in centers, as well as increase the availability of affordable housing. This plan amounts to an injection of money into the Christian Service Center, the Salvation Army, and Pathlight Homes, all NGOs, with the plan to convert a hotel on Colonial Drive into an apartment unit for supportive housing, as well as develop 80 new apartments, 80 new apartments, period, which is, it pales in comparison to the hundreds of people on the street, as well as helping people expand their down payments, aka bank loans. There is nothing wrong with donating to charitable organizations. The Christian Service Center does a good job. In fact, I believe it's quite noble. However, we have to admit that the donations to charities are not a sufficient answer to the question of homelessness. All over the nation, we see the proliferation of charities. Yet all over the nations, we still see an increase in the houseless population. It is not an answer. In Orlando particularly, these organizations oversaw the expansion of Orlando's homeless population by 28% just last year, a figure that is projected to increase next year. Though institutions like drop-in centers could ideally play a role of an auxiliary defense against homelessness, it does not answer why people are becoming homeless in the first place. It is not going to be the homeless people that benefit from this program. So when we ask who is the beneficiaries, if not the homeless people, we should examine that question. And I would say that the beneficiaries are the NGOs themselves, whose board of directors overlap with corporations who benefit from land accrual, home loans, as well as speculation. For instance, Pathlight Homes, who is owned by Helene Bloom, is a former owner of the now defunct Miller Renovation and Home Repair, and now is the owner of the corporation Grand Avenue Housing Company. Pathlight's Homes Home Director, like I said before, overlapped with the United with a local NGO called the United Way, or I should say the local chapter. United Way is an international NGO known for its corruption, known for its mismanagement of funds and donation and monopolization. Why do these service centers need our taxpayer dollars when they are partnered with entities like Morgan Bank, Disney World, AT&T, Chase, and ExxonMobil? All working people know deep down in their hearts that you work for who signs your check. So this kind of economic cooperation is not a coincidence. The housing developments and the redoing of the hotel will benefit the construction materials company way more than they benefit the people on the street. The down payment assistance will provide extra revenue for banks, likely plunging the average American into more debt. And the communications companies will benefit by monopolizing their services to their customers in these new housings. So it seems to me not only is it a fraction of the city's budget that is being used to address the issue, the recipients of this money cannot help the issue in the first place. Combine that with the misappropriation of funds and the disproportionate investment into the police and passing of ordinances such as Ordinance 2023-55, we can see that these laws, these programs are not fit to attain the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In fact, they can only result in loss, subjugation, all in the pursuit of profit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Albizu, for that financial breakdown. Our next speaker will be Camila Sanchez, who's going to give us some data collection insights. She'll be presenting on some key findings from our data collection efforts.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're here to address a deeply concerning issue in Orlando and Orange County, and that is the continued criminalization of community members, of our houseless community members, excuse me. So this trend affects not just those directly impacted, but all of us as a community that values compassion, fairness, and effective use of public resources. At the beginning of this year, we started collecting data to evaluate how local laws were enforced against houseless individuals. Initially, our focus was on Ordinance 2023-55, which many feared would disproportionately target houseless people, and unfortunately, it has. As our research expanded, we uncovered more troubling patterns, including the frequent use of city ordinances to arrest houseless individuals for simply asking for help. Between January and August of this year, approximately 1,600 arrests that we've documented so far in Orange County were listed the individuals as transient imposed arrest records. Of these, the Orlando Police Department accounted for 80% of those arrests. Among those arrests, 156 were specifically under another ordinance, Ordinance 4306, subsection K, which makes it illegal for a person to exchange any item with someone in a vehicle stopped at a traffic stop sign or similar traffic control device. Disturbingly, enforcement of this ordinance has gone far beyond routine policing. In 58 documented cases that we found, OPD reviewed surveillance footage to identify and track these houseless individuals who accepted money, even water and food, from generous passersby. These individuals were subsequently arrested under that ordinance. This practice raises significant concerns about the use of police resources and underscores the extent to which our most valuable residents are being targeted merely trying to survive. Adding to this injustice, the arrest records often include quotes from the signs of these individuals. I'd like to read a few of them for you. Signs like, want our tax dollars spent? Is surveilling and arresting people for asking for help the best that we can do? Orlando is a city celebrated for its hospitality and sense of community, yet these practices stand in stark contrast to those values. Criminalizing houseless individuals is neither effective nor economical. Data shows that 1/3 of these arrests made by OPD involve homeless individuals. 1/3 of all OPD arrests involve houseless individuals. This is a significant increase from prior years when it used to be 1 in 5, which is not great either. Alright? So this revolving door of arrest and incarceration does nothing to address the root cause of homelessness. Homeless individuals cannot afford bail, meaning they remain in jail longer. This needlessly drains public resources, your tax dollars. These are funds that should be used to meet the real needs of our community. This approach not only wastes taxpayer dollars, but also creates additional barriers for individuals struggling to secure stable housing and employment. It's a cycle that is unsustainable and ineffective and counterproductive. Instead of criminalizing people for their circumstances, we need to invest in solutions that uplift our entire community. Resources currently devoted to surveilling, arresting, and processing houseless individuals would far be better spent on housing, job training, mental health, and substance abuse services. These are initiatives that address the root causes of homelessness and provide real opportunities for stability. As we approach the upcoming City Council meeting, we urge council members to reevaluate the priorities reflected in these enforcement practices. We call on them to halt the targeting of houseless individuals under ordinances like 43.06 J and K to reallocate instead those resources toward humane and effective lasting solutions. So let us work together to ensure that Orlando remains a city where every resident, housed or unhoused, can live with dignity. Thank you.
Will be giving us a national perspective, the national homelessness crisis, and how RAMP policies affect our local struggle.
Good afternoon, my name is Sam Delgado, and as my colleague before me laid out, we're here to continue the dialogue that we started with the City Commission earlier this year. Many of us who are standing behind me and several other community members joined us in January when we saw the City Commission move very quickly to pass this vaguely worded ordinance that risked granting the police of Orlando additional legal authority, which could easily be used to target the city's most vulnerable members. And since then, our concerns have been amplified by the political currents at the state and national levels. Earlier this year, Governor DeSantis signed the Unauthorized Camping and Sleeping Act, which imposed a requirement on county governments to prohibit individuals from sleeping on public property. Several months later, we saw the passage of the Supreme Court case, Grants Pass versus Johnson, which grants the legal authority for such arrests targeting homeless individuals. And so when we saw the City Commission deliberate on the passage of Ordinance 2023-55, we heard the City Commissioners go back and forth about the causes for it, the reasons they wanted to pass this ordinance, which stated things like trying to stop groups of people downtown who might be targeting individuals for harassment. And yet, just as my colleague before me laid out, that's not how we've seen this ordinance be used. In 11 of the 11 cases documented where people were arrested under this ordinance, the individuals who were under arrest were deemed transient. This issue of the continued criminalization of people in poverty, of people who do not have another place to go, runs counter to the city's own stated goals of trying to get people off the streets and into homes. When you have people continually adding to their criminal records, continually adding their debt to the state, it keeps them from being able to meet their most basic need at threat of arrest and further involvement in the criminal justice system. And so we're here to ask the city to do more to address this issue at the roots rather than trying to criminalize and police their way out of this continued economic issue. Especially in the case that, we see that this policy it's not passed in a vacuum. These are policies that are passing at the state and national level that are granting a continued push for local governments to criminalize our most vulnerable neighbors. And so, we're here to highlight that issue and seek solutions. Thank you.
Call to action to our community to stand together in rejecting policies that target the unhoused, urging the city to allocate resources towards true solutions. To our community, thank you for joining us today. Everybody who's watching online, who's standing beside me, or who is present here. My name is Isa Peña, and I'm one of the campaign leads here for this initiative with REAL, the Revolutionary Education and Action League. For the past year, I have dedicated countless of hours to this campaign, and not because I am compensated, as REAL is a grassroots volunteer collective, but because I believe in the power of community. My commitment, it is fueled by the strength and resiliency of every community member who has shown up, spoken up, taken action, whether it is through this campaign or whether it is to our People's Free Kitchens programs, People's Freedom Farm, and more. Today, we've laid out the urgent daily struggles faced by Orlando's most vulnerable residents. Struggles intensified by the city's response to poverty and housing insecurity that we're witnessing. Ordinance 2023-55 was introduced under the guise of public safety to managing to keep our streets safe. But safe from who? The data and testimonies we share today reveal a darker reality, one of the criminalizing of the homelessness, punishing people for conditions created by systemic failures in housing and resources allocation. The Orlando Police Department participates in property seizures, destroying essential belongings, such as IDs, people's driver's license, financial purpose, birth certificates are frequently destroyed. These are items who are necessities for people to be able to work, including uniforms, bicycles, and tools are often destroyed by police officers. Irreplaceable keepsakes such as letters, yearbooks, family photographs, and sometimes we have read in the reports, relatives' ashes are being thrown away. Punitive measures such as citations, arrests, incarceration add unbearable penalties in form of unpayable fees, creating significant barriers to future progress. Orlando wants to see progress. Delinquent fines lead to license suspensions, making it even more difficult for people experiencing homelessness to secure jobs and housing, as my colleagues have shared. This ordinance, like countless others, failed to address the root cause, and it pushes the unhoused to further margins, offering punishment where we need real solutions. Let's confront the so-called priorities of the city. The city has allocated $210 million into policing, while only a fraction of that amount is invested in affordable housing or support services. This is a clear misuse of the people's resources taken from working people like us through our taxpayer dollars, which should be used to ensure collective well-being and not perpetuate a cycle of criminalization and repression that we see today. We are tired. We're seeing our city exploit our contributions that fuels a system that neglects the very people it should claim it serves. This isn't about safety. It's about control, and it's about maintaining power for the wealthy at the expense of working people. The few shelters that Orlando has often charges their fees and separates families. Mothers and fathers can't stay together. They often are separated, and we see that, adding yet another layer of hardships. Individuals
community members who work within different NGOs have shared the harsh realities of these shelters. But sometimes their hands are tied by these restrictive policies, and they confine the things with local organizations like ours. Meanwhile, those who have been systemically excluded from safe and accessible spaces are punished for simply existing. Rio has reached out to the city through letters, meeting requests to demand transparency, especially concerning the 2023 budget workshop presentation in January, and now the fiscal 2024 to 2025 budget, details available on the city's website. These documents reveal the 6% additional pay increase in sworn police officers to support recruitment efforts. With 14.7 budget allocated to police department, while only 0.8, let me repeat that, only 0.8 goes into housing and community development. You don't believe me? Check their website. Although these presentations are publicly available, city commissioners dismiss their concerns, claiming that we don't understand the data. They're often dismissive and disrespectful to their constituents in our communication efforts. We believe that the city funding, resources, graphic must be accessible and accurate and transparent for the public understanding.